who is Gayatri? Okay. What does that Gayatri mean and who that Gayatri is? Okay. So whilst I sip some water, I just want to open it up for discussion as to what we all think who this Gayatri is. And I'm going to pause and I'm going to let you speak, please. Yeah. Who is going to give us their opinion about Gayatri? Okay, so there is a bit of a silence there.
Like a Gayatri Devata, it's one of the Devatas.
Okay, so okay, Devata Gayatri. So which Gayatri Devata, Sudarshan? What is your? Is it Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati, Bharati?
Saraswati. She's
So
Saraswati.
okay, so you think Saraswati is the Gayatri. So the Gayatri of Vishwamitra, what do we think? Is it Saraswati?
Is she the Abhimani Devatas or a Devata of all the Vedas?
Okay, so she is Saraswati Bharati, or that is true. So yeah, okay, thank you. That's a good contribution. Anybody else has a view on this? Who is Gayatri? Okay, let's move on. Sorry, I heard something. Okay, let's move on then. So, hello. Okay, fine. So so let's move on. So Shushrut has contributed saying that and Sudarshan have said Gayatri is a devata. Okay, so this becomes very important here. Now, before we understand what is the Gayatri that was discovered by.
I'm sorry, I just thought of showing this Gayatri Devi which I have at home. It's a picture of it.
Pratibha ji, your echo coming through.
Could be that two people using the same Zoom at home, this sort of echo comes.
Okay, you carry on. I'll tell at the end. Namaskar ji.
Yeah, if it seems to be fine now, so you're very welcome to share. Yeah, so if the echo seems to have gone now, so please come back. Yeah.
No, I was just telling I had a Gayatri Devi at home, so I just thought I'll show that. So it is a Mahalakshmi, I guess. So can you see that?
Your video is not coming on. So if you switch on your video, possibly we could. Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So that's beautiful. That's the Gayatri that you have at home. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Pratibha ji. Could I ask you to mute now, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Madhu,
Yeah.
it's not related to any goddess or anyone, but what it means, that is so.
Yeah. Okay.
Protector of the body, protects body.
Is it Chandas? Gayatri is Chandas. So I thought that Chandas is Gayatri.
So yeah, I'm really pleased. There is a whole spectrum of views that have come out here about Gayatri. So we have had Saraswati, we have had Lakshmi, we have had Chandas, and then we have also had Neetaji say that it probably is it means something. Okay. It denotes something rather than it gives an attribute about something rather than denoting a person.
Yeah, it can't be a Devi. It has to be something more than a Devi.
Deval, yes, thank you for that. Yeah, excellent. So the whole spectrum of discussion that's happened about Gayatri is important because what I want you to do is I wanted to pull you back and think about you are Vishwamitra. And when you are contemplating, what is it that Vishwamitra is contemplating in the tapas that he is doing over 1,000 years, 10,000 years? What is it that he is doing tapas on? He has, if you read the literature, he has been doing a tapas on Brahman. He's been doing tapas on the Supreme Lord. Okay, when he has been doing that deep meditation, then this particular mantra is revealed to him. So that should give us a clue as to who Gayatri is, number one. Number two, Gayatri, the word is in Strilinga. It is not Purushalinga, it is Strilinga, and it seems to be in feminine. That is what is creating, I won't say confusion, but alternative interpretations of what Gayatri is. Okay. So now if you look at the verse itself, that Savituhu, okay, it is the Savitra is the most important word in Gayatri. Savitra. Who is this Savitru? That Savitru Varaniyam. Savitru literally could mean the sun. Yeah. So the question there is our Vishwamitra praising the Savitru who is the sun? Not the Devi Gayatri, not Lakshmi, not Saraswati Bharati, not the Supreme Brahman. Is he talking about the sun whose name is also called Savitru? Savit is a name of sun. Okay, is that what it is? So we need to think about this very, very carefully. And that's the reason why understanding what the internal evidence of the Vedas is about the sun, the fire, the antariksha becomes important. And that's the reason why Dyav, Prithvi, Antariksham. Hold on to that idea, because we need to seek for internal evidence within the Vedas. Your guesswork or my guesswork does not hold any weight of evidence. All that we need to go is to understand who the Savitru is. We need to go for the internal evidence. The other one, I've stressed this on a number of times, is the whole of the Vedic language. This is, remind you, this is the mantra what Vishwamitra saw. And when was Vishwamitra? You are talking about eons and eons ago. The Vedic Sanskrit that was there at that point, as you know, was wholly etymological. The words have only etymological meaning, not the colloquial meanings of today. So that needs to be taken into consideration. The third is you need to take evidence from our Prasthanatrayas, Veda, Gita, and Sutras. These three, which forms the basis of Vedanta, needs to be taken into account. The fourth one that you need to do is what's called Anvaya of words. Anvaya means the way in which each word in this mantra is placed and in what order they are placed by Vishwamitra, not placed by him, the order in which he has seen. All those things become very, very important. And again, this kind of analysis of a Vedic mantra hopefully will give you an idea of why our Vedas are called Chadayanti iti Chandamsi, that they need to be broken open to understand the deeper meanings, because our rishis wrote everything in a very cryptic form. It is like you sending a WhatsApp message which is completely it has got this encryption, right? So similarly the Vedic rishis wrote mantras with all this encryption, and we need to use the Veda themselves, the Gita and Sutra, to go and understand who the Savitru is. So what I am going to do is for the next 10-15 minutes, that is what I'm going to focus on, to first tell you who the Savitru is. Once we understand who the Savitru is, then the rest of it about what this Gayatri Mantra is saying then becomes sensible and reasonable and intelligible. Okay. So Savitru, the first point there is Savitru cannot be the sun. It cannot be the material sun that you see. Why? Go to Purusha Shukta within the Rig Veda itself. We all know this famous verse, Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chakshoho Suryo Ajayata Mukad Indrashcha Agnishcha Pranad Vayu Rajayata. So what does it say? Purusha Shukta. And again, we have done Purusha Shukta last year. So we should constantly have that process of applying what we have read elsewhere here. Because as I said, the whole of the Vedic literature is Samanvaya. They all talk the same thing. What does this say? Chakshus Suryo Ajayata. Surya is the sun, and Chakshus Suryo Ajayata means the rishi there is saying this sun comes from the eye of the Supreme. The sun there not only means the materials, it is actually the Surya Devata, the Abhimani Devata of the sun comes from the eye of the Supreme. Okay, so that should tell you a first answer. They're saying that it cannot be the sun that the rishi is actually worshipping, because the sun itself is created by somebody. How can something that is being created by somebody can have the highest position for contemplation? Why? Because Purusha Shukta clearly says The sun comes from the eye of the Supreme. Sun, I means the sun Devata, and the Devata creates the sun. Chakshus Suryo Ajayata. And in the same 10th mandala, in the same Kshudra Mahashukta mandala, there is another very, very important verse. And this is something that many acharyas have taken. Surya Chandram Aso Data Yata Purvam Akalpayat. This is one of the most famous Vedic mantras to say why in Sanatana Dharma creations is an eternal cycle. There was never a point that creation did not happen, and there will never be a point in the future when creation will cease to exist. Creation constantly happens, and this Rigveda mantra says, Surya Chandramasau. Asau means that which you can see there. Asau is something that's very far away. That Surya and Chandra that you see in this creation were also created in the previous creation. Data, the Supreme Lord, Yata Purvam Akalpayat. Like how it was previously, he creates the same Surya and Chandra. Okay, so that again should give you a clear indication that it is not the sun that is being discussed here, because the sun has been it's being created again and again. So the sun is a dependent thing. Yeah, we are not going to be worshipping anything independent. What we are after is somebody who is swatantra, somebody who is independent, supreme being is what we are after. And that is what the Vedas reveal. The Vedas reveal to us in our highest sense, the supreme being. All others are there, but primarily what we call as the Parama Mukhya Vritti of Vedas is to talk about the supreme being. So that is another argument. I'm just giving you 3 examples here. Now, Vashishta Mandala, look our Vashishta. He has done a verse. There is a typo here. This is not Rigveda 10:1937. Vashishta Mandala is the 7th Mandala. So there is a verse there. Janayanta Suryam Ushasam Agnim. Clear. So Janayanta means he creates what? Surya. Ushasam is interesting. Ushasam means dawn. Agnim means fire. So those things, Surya, Ushasam and Agnim, not only means the material things, but they actually mean the deities of the Surya, the deity of the sun, the dawn, which is Usha, the deity of Agnim, which is the Agni Devata. So those are all the deities and the material components that come, and the Janayanta, the Supreme Lord, creates them. Okay. So this material sun definitely is not the Savitru of Gayatri. That is the first point I wanted to impress upon you. And the second point I've impressed upon you, so hope, is everything here has been created. And if this was an imaginary thing, and if this was an illusion, our Rig Veda and our rishis would not be saying Janayanta, Data Yata Purvam Akalpayatu. Watch those words in the Vedas. Okay, so these are all philosophical points, but I hope you're able to grasp that Savitru there is not the sun. So the next question is, so who then is this Savitru? The Savitru actually is the indweller of the sun. He is not the sun, but who is the indweller of the sun is the Savitru, who is also called Gayatri. Okay. And there is a whole lot of evidence within our Vedic literature. What I have done for today's afternoon is I've picked up a few verses from the Upanishad. Some of you will be familiar with some, and Gita, and of course our Brahma Sutra, because these form the Prasthanatrayas. And as I told you before, whatever evidence we seek, we go to Upanishads, we go to Gita, and of course our founding fathers' view is the final Supreme Court order as to who the Gayatri is. So what does Prashna Upanishad says? Param Purusham Abhidhyaya Ita Sa Tejasi Suryo Sampannaha. Sa Tejasi Surye Sampannaha. So Tejasi means this effulgent Lord is Surye Sampannaha, means he is inside the sun. So the Prashna Upanishad is talking about some supreme consciousness that is inside the sun and controlling it. Mundaka Upanishad, Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Sarva Bhutantaratma. Sarva Bhutaha Antaraha Atma. So this Supreme Lord, who is also called Atma, he is Antara. Antara means inside. He is inside what? Agni, Chakshus, Chandra, Surya Yoho. This Lord is inside the Surya. There is the other evidence from Mundaka Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad gives a it's a very, I wouldn't say funny, it's another angle. It says, Bishad Asya Madvataha Pavate. Bishad Udeti Suryaha. Bishad Udeti Suryaha. Think about that word, Bishad. Out of fear of the Supreme Being, the sun actually rises in the east and sets in the west. The sun is actually having the nuclear fission reaction and making all this heat and light because the Surya Devata is afraid of this guy, the Supreme Being, because if he doesn't do his job properly, the Supreme Being will be afraid of him. So that is how it says, Bishad Udeti Suryaha. Yeah. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and we have done this before, Antaryami Brahmanam. I told you about Antaryami Brahmanam as to how the Supreme Being has pervaded all his creations. And there is a specific verse there. Yaha Aditye Tishtan Adityad Antaro Yam Adityo Naveda Yasya Adityaha Shariram Yah Adityam Antaro Yamayati Eshata Atma Antaryami Amrutaha. So this particular Antaryami Brahmanam we have done before. It is one of the foundational verses of our Vedic philosophy, where it defines who the Supreme Being is. The definition of the Supreme Being is the all-pervasive super consciousness in all of existence. And here this verse says that this Amrutaha, he is a Antaryami. Of who? Of Aditya. Yeah. So again, Chandogya Upanishad, Ya Esho Antara Aditye Hiranmayaha Purusho Drishyate. So the Chandogya says, you know what, when you go out and see that sun, don't just look at that golden hue of the sun in the dawn, but actually inside that sun is this Hiranmayaha Purushaha. Purushaha, we know, is the Purusha Shukta's Purusha. And it says this golden hue Purusha is inside that sun. See that fellow inside the sun, not just the sun. Yeah. Kataka Upanishad also says the same. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, name vidyuto bhanti, kuto ayam agnihi. Tameva bantam anubhati sarvam, tasya basa sarvam idam vibhati. What it says is, it is very similar to the Gita verse 15:12, and I'm going to get one of you to recite that. So Yama says the same thing. The sun shines, the moon shines, everything is happening because there is this Lord inside them that makes it to work that way. Okay. So when you look at our Vedic scripture, Upanishad, as you know, is part of the Vedas. It is very clear that Savitru that is being seen by Vishwamitra in deep meditation is the Supreme Being himself, because the Vedas themselves have said that inside the sun is the Supreme Being. Yeah, that is the Upanishads. So I'm going to break for a minute. I'm going to ask one of you to recite the 15:12, please. We have done this before, of course. So who is going to recite 15:12 for us?
May I do?
Yeah, go for it, Pragnesh.
Thank you. So 15 verse 12 Gita. Yadaditya gatam tejo yadat vasate ksham yadbhaji jagdagno yattejo tadhi kamakam.
Okay, that's very good. So yad aditya gatam tejo jagat basayate akilam yat chandramasi yat chagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam. Look at this. Again, he is taking, there is the Chandra, there is the Surya, and there is the Agni. The three components that are there. That the Chandra and Surya are the ones that they are the Dhyau. You see them beyond the atmosphere. And on earth, what is it? It is the Agni. And he says their light is because of me, because I'm inside them, and it is because of me they are there. Okay, so that Antaryami concept is all over in our Vedic scriptures. Now, who the Gayatri is of Gayatri Mantra is actually settled once and for all by Veda Vyasa. In Brahma Sutra, there is, in the first Adhyaya, there is an Adhikaranam, a particular section called Gayatri Adhikaranam. He has composed 3 sutras to actually confirm and tell us once and for all who this Gayatri is. And for those of us here who might think that the Parama Mukhya Vritti or the ultimate meaning of the Gayatri is Lakshmi or Gayat Saraswati or so, they may have a meaning, but the ultimate meaning is the Supreme Purusha, and he is called Gayatri, is what Veda Vyasa has decided in Gayatri Adhikaranam. So when Veda Vyasa defines Gayatri is the supreme being, I think we cannot argue with Veda Vyasa, I'm sure. So we accept that. So what I have done so far is I'm actually giving you a base on which further discussion of Gayatri Mantra should happen. First, we should all understand that the Gayatri or the Savitru of Gayatri Mantra is the Purusha of the Purusha Shukta, is the Krishna of Bhagavad Gita. And when Yama says, Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam, and it is that Vishnu. So that is the Gayatri. Gayatri is Krishna, Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, whatever you want to call it. That is Gayatri, who is that independent being who controls the universe. And that is what we see in our world. You have the fire, you have the sun, you have the moon, and you see the lightnings. And our rishis, when they look at it, in many verses, these are all the chappies that come, the fire, the sun, the moon, or the lightning. And they've given the deities for that. Sun, the fire is Agni, who is the 15th rank of Vedic pantheon. Sun is the Surya, who is the 12th rank. Chandra is also in the same rank. And the lightning is Indra, Vidyut, lightning. He is the 8th rank. But inside all these four components is the supreme being who controls this, that enables these components of the material universe to operate. So that is how our Vedic rishis saw the external world, that everything is pervaded and controlled by the supreme being. And I want to remind you on the Mandukya Upanishad, when we did that verse, HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.